UFC Fight Night, Holloway versus Poirier 3 in Louisiana takes place tomorrow, and I'm gonna be giving you my picks. Last week we did great. We picked Derek Lewis by KO, got the exact method with that big overhand, catching him right on the chin, and Tuco Tokos. We were printing money last week. And this week we're looking to do that again, starting off with the prelim opener of Carly Judice versus Nicole Cagliari. Originally, when I looked at this fight, I remembered Nicole Cagliari's last performance versus Carquiete, and I was thinking, there was a good argument that she won 1 and 3. She looked really solid in that fight. She's strong in the clinch, strong in the takedowns. Then I went and I watched a lot of Carly Judice. She looked really good versus Yanesi Duben, I believe it was, and he was completely untouched. Before that, she had lost two close split decisions. The Karakiate one, I actually scored against her, but it showed how game she was, how tough she was. She was landing just as many strikes as Karakiate. She just wasn't quite in there at her best yet. She was really young. She was only 4 and 0. And Karakiete is a very seasoned striker. So that was a hard test. And it was her first time fighting someone at like bigger than her. Karakiete has a nasty frame. She's like 5'9", 5'10". And Carly Judice looked really strong in that fight, had good moments in the clinch. She was tagging her up a lot. And then I think she arguably beat Gabriela Fernandez. She has a lot of grit too. She clearly won the third after maybe dropping 1 and 2. There's an argument overall for those rounds. I'd say maybe she won 2 and 3, but the judges gave it to Gabriela Fernandez, aka Renan Fajea. I don't know how he was able to make flyweight to go beat the shit out of this poor girl and then choke out Wang Kong, but he did. He got sad losing to Francis Ngannou, went down, beat the fuck out of Carly Judice. But honestly, she looked really game in both those fights. This is something kind of rare in women's MMA. Nicole Cagliari has like legitimate like muscle insertion. She's really strong. She looks like she might have juiced up a little bit if you look at some of her earlier regional careers. She just didn't really have that type of physique. She wasn't cut. Her jawline wasn't as pronounced. She also like her skin's like a little bit leathery, some of the stuff like that. Um, she might have done some juice, and I would say so. And then on the other hand, we got Carly Judice, who's actually gritty. A lot of these girls just kind of go in there for the check. Maybe they're promoting their OnlyFans like Nicole Cagliari. But Judice is tough, man. She's really good. She called her shot. That head kick KO on Duben was nasty. It earned her 50K, which I think she could also invest back into her career. This might be the best we ever see her until now. She might just keep getting better and better. Honestly, I think this is a stylistic nightmare for Nicole Cagliari. To win this fight, she's gonna have to stay on the front foot. She's gonna have to have like a Marab-like approach, but to be a Marab, it takes God-given cardio, unbelievable grit, and a winning mentality. And Nicole Cagliari is kind of like she already has one foot out with like she has an OnlyFans and she's not really that good and all this kind of stuff. And he doesn't have the grit to go do that Marab style where she would have to force the clinch, force the takedowns. She'd have to be in the pocket. She's a pretty good pocket boxer, whereas Judice really excels at range. Cagliari really struggles with girls who are just more rangy than her. Karakiete, she was able to kind of outmuscle her, but so is Carly Judice, and I think Judice is going to look really strong, really filled out, and I think that we're going to see a really good version of her with that 50K bonus coming off the momentum of a really nasty head kick. She called her shot, said she wanted to be on the DP retirement card, and I think that she's going to go out there and put on a show. I'm not going to pick her to knockout Nicole Cagliari. I could see her with her patented head kick, which she has finished a lot of fights with. Dude, she was fighting these girls on like, especially in the amateur. I watched some of her amateur fights. She was fighting girls who were in there clearly trying to like be a hobbyist or whatever. She is mean. She was finishing these girls viciously. Really nice head kicks, super good pressure, nice. She has really good finishing instincts. She goes to the body very well. And I think that she's going to take Nicole Cagliari 30-27. Cagliari, like I said, I don't think she has the grit. I don't think she has the mentality to have like a Marab-like approach because to be this small, to beat a technical striker, like I'd compare this to like a Marab O'Malley on like the lowest possible level. But Cagliari is good in pockets, and she's good in the clinch, and she can get nice takedowns, and she's really competent on the ground. She will have to be moving forward. She'll have to be pushing the pace. I don't see her being able to crack Carly Judice's jab. I don't see her being able to get inside the range of Carly Judice. I think the leg kicks, head kicks, I think even the jab is just going to really give Nicole Cagliari some problems. So I'm going to pick Judice to get it done at home, 30-27, and then we can see what's going on for her going forward because she's fought some really good competition. She is really entertaining. Moving on to Bruno Ferreira versus Jackson McVeigh. I'm going with Bruno Ferreira. by first round knockout, maybe second round, but I am locking this one. This is one of my locks of the card. Bruno Ferreira looked really good in his last performance, was able to get a submission win over Armin Petrosian. Also in his career, he has only lost to really high level grapplers who are very competent on the feet. Nurulstan Ruzaboyev and Abus Magomedov are both really good, and he was dropping Abus all over the place, having really good moments versus Abus Magomedov. And then Ruzaboyev kind of walked through him, but I think Ruzaboyev is pretty high level. McVeigh, I just don't see him being able to mix in takedowns. A lot of the guys that he was beating up on the regional scene were kind of cans. None of his performances were super impressive to me. And Bruno Ferreira has insane power. This dude was fucking trick shotting Dustin Stoltzfus like 2016 FaZe Clan. He fucking was throwing the spinning elbow on this guy like 6 times in a row, crazy combinations. He embarrassed Stoltzfus, and I think Ferreira is probably not maybe not the best, but he's at least one of the 3 or 4 best fighters outside the rankings at middleweight. I think he's right on the same level as like an Abus Magomedov or a Joe Pyfer or even like a Kelvin Gastelum. These guys who are right outside of the rankings. I think he's right there with them because he was really close to beating Abus Magomedov. That one was a really good fight, and I am locking this. I do think that he's going to win by KO. I'm saying that Bruno Ferreira is a lock to win this fight. There's a chance that he gets a submission, so I wouldn't bet him by KO. But I do think that Bruno Ferreira wins this fight one way or another. I don't see McVeigh being able to really get it done. He was supposed to debut against a lot worse of an opponent. Getting thrown in there with Bruno Ferreira, who, like I said, I think is like around the 16th or 18th best fighter at middleweight, is not where you want to start your career. This one's going to be a rebuilding performance after this for Jackson McVeigh. I don't see him being able to win this fight. Moving on, Lucas Brzeski versus Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann looked really bad in his heavyweight debut, but I'm going to pick him to bounce back. I would be very surprised if a guy who has finished Ovin St. Preux, finished Dominic Reyes, gone to war with some of the best, because like people like to clown Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith's a tough fighter. Ryan Spann lost to him twice, I believe. One of them was really close. And, he has his fair share of losses. He's not the best in the world. He has all like the mental stuff going on. But Lucas Brzeski's 1-5 in the UFC. He caught Walter Walker off the sauce, all right? Walter Walker forgot a cycle for that fight. But Lucas Brzeski's 1-5. He loses to everybody competent. Just got schooled by Kennedy Nzechukwu. I don't see the route to victory for him. I think Spann's gonna be a lot quicker, and I'm picking him by knockout. Brzeski is not good. I think he is one of the worst fighters in the heavyweight division, but I do think a guy like him is important to be a stepping stone. This is a guy who Taliesin Teixeira should have been fighting instead of jumping up to Derek Lewis. But I don't think he's good. He's 1-5 in the UFC, lost to not the best level of talent, and everybody decent beats him. I don't know if Ryan Spann could ever touch the rankings at heavyweight because of how bad Waldo Cortez Acosta schooled him. But let's be honest, Waldo Cortez Acosta is pretty good. He beat Sergey Spivak, very close fight. But Waldo Cortez Acosta has also rattled off really solid wins versus Andrei Arlovsky. I believe the only person Waldo Cortez Acosta lost to was like on Sauce, Rogerio de Lima it was. And he's probably like the biggest prospect at heavyweight right now, and I think that is not that bad of a loss to have. He's also quick, which Brzeski's not. He has good footwork. He's a good boxer. Brzeski is not, and I just don't see a world where Brzeski wins this fight. And I would not be surprised if he got cut after this fight. I wouldn't like that because heavyweight is already so shallow. Just feed this guy to prospects. But I think Ryan Spann gets this done by knockout. Moving on, Jimmy Crute versus Marcin Prachnio. Marcin Prachnio has emerged as quite the popular underdog this week, but I'm going to say Jimmy Crute bounces back. This guy has only lost to very solid high level fighters. Anthony Smith, he's also lost to, I believe, Jamal Hill. He's lost to some of the best of the best. He is a solid striker. He's still only like 29, 30 years old. Shout out to Jimmy Crute. He recently found God, and I think he's going to get that resurgence in his career. I think that Marcin Prachnio loses to low-level fighters. He's also never beat a high-level fighter, aside from Khalil Roundtree when he was unserious, not taking training seriously, before he went to Thailand and fully unlocked what he was supposed to be. He beat Khalil Roundtree. But he's not that good. Marcin Prachnio does not have this crazy style, and I think that Jimmy Crute will be able to outpoint Prachnio to a decision, and I'm very confident that that will happen. Um, there's always the option for an upset here because Crute is not the most high level, but he's still young. Prachnio's like 36. I believe Crute still has a little bit more left in him. He has been in there only losing to the best of the best. And I think that his experience, because he also went to, I believe, a draw with Alonzo Minifield and then lost a clear one to Alonzo Minifield. So really high level competition, whereas Pragnell has not fought high level competition and has not beat high level competition. Both of them are on a losing streak. I think Crute will snap his. Moving on. This is my second lock of the card. Islam Dulatov is an amazing prospect. They show him as 1-0. He's more like 5-0, 6-0. I don't remember. But honestly, man, I've looked at this guy's regional fights and his contender series performance. His ability to just find the chin is incredible, and he stays so clean in pockets. This guy does not get hurt. He's really good at just staying clean. You know, he has to keep that face nice for his fucking. He's like a Versace model or some shit. Look at this guy fucking Muse or whatever the fuck that fucking that shit. He does this shit for 6 hours a day. But Dulatov is really good. He keeps himself really clean in exchanges. I've never seen him get tagged up big in one of his fights. And he just dominated the last guy that he fought on the contender series. Can't remember the dude's name. But he does it without getting touched. He finds the chin a lot like it kind of reminds me of I was watching the Carlos Prates versus Li Jingliang fight. Just how he's able to just find the chin so consistently and he just scoots those punches right over where he's trying to block. He just goes right around the guard. He's really, really precise as a striker, and I think he's a legitimate prospect at welterweight. I think that Dulatov is really good. I think we're going to see him very flawlessly take out Adam Fugit. I think he's got to keep, you know, that model face nice and intact. I'd say he gets tagged up with maybe a shot and then dominates Fugit and finishes him in the first round. This is going to be one of my other locks, Islam Dulatov by first round finish. I'm saying if you parlay Dulatov and Ferreira with my last pick, which is coming up right here, Atiba Gautier, he's my other lock of the card. It's going to give you solid odds not like I don't think it's plus money because they are all such heavy favorites, but it's if you just want to see green in the bet slip, parlay those three together, it's going to make you a lot of money. And like I was just saying, Atiba Gautier is my next lock of the card. Robert Valentin is not good. He got tossed around by Torres Finney. Everybody shit on Torres Finney for the performance, but Valentin wasn't able to stuff a little 5'7" dude's takedowns of just marauding him. And Atiba Gautier is 6'4" and just as swole as Torres Finney. Torres Finney muscled around Valentin. Gautier, he when he fucks people up, it looks like a crime scene. He fought this like Sung Yu guy or something in a regional promotion. There was so much blood everywhere. The dude was pouring. It was one of the latest stoppages I've seen in a while. Go watch that fight. It was actually pretty sick. But Gautier is really high level. He's 2-0 in the UFC. They're building him properly. I don't think Gautier is like a world beater. I wouldn't call him like a super high prospect at middleweight. I'd probably pick him to lose to like an obviously like an Ikram Aleskarov. I think somebody who'd give Gautier problems because we've seen him actually have some problems in the clinch before. Some people have been able to outmuscle him. And I think that not outmuscle him, but just outgrapple him in general. He's not the most talented grappler. But this guy is like a little baby Ngannou. I'd say that he would probably struggle with like an Ikram Aleskarov or like an Iron Turtle. Even somebody in like a Kelvin Gastelum range who's really durable, I could see giving him problems. Anybody who's able to mix in the takedowns in general, he might even beat Gastelum, but I think both those guys would give him issues. But Valentin is not that guy. Got dominated by Loader, got dominated by Torres Finney should not have been a split decision. Somebody was just hating on Torres Finney. I get it. Like he garnered a lot of haters after that fight, but the judge sure was one of them. Because Valentin had no success in that fight. Valentin is just a tough alumni. He's not that good. Got dominated by Ryan Loader. Choked out pretty, or I think he might have gotten grounded. I know he got finished on the ground. I remember that. But Valentin's not good. Um, I don't see him having much success. This might be the last fight of his UFC career, unless they want to just keep giving him prospects because he's a tough alumni, I guess. This guy didn't even win tough or anything. He's going to be 0-3 in the UFC after this one. But that is my last lock of the card with Atiba Gautier. I would parlay him, Dulatov, and Ferreira together to try to make some money. And here is my underdog pick of the card. Nikolai Varetnikov at plus 130. I think Varetnikov is really underrated. A lot of people are picking against him. It's like I think like 90 to 10% picked Varetnikov. Um, Most people pick Prado. Prado's not very good. His only win is versus Ottoman Azaitar. He was getting outsized by people like Jamie Malarkey at lightweight, and now he's moving up to welterweight, where he gave up a super sizable amount of frame to Jake Matthews, who absolutely size mogged him and beat the fuck out of him for 3 rounds, clearly 30-27 him. My biggest gripe with Nikolai Varetnikov is that he does not throw in bunches. If Prado gets a win, he's gonna win in the first round or two. He's gonna try to get a quick finish. He does not have a good gas tank. Varetnikov is the style to beat this guy. He throws individual punches and stuff, does not get gassed out, plays at range, kind of like tapping at range, leg kicks, jabs, and he's huge. He's 6'1", has a big reach advantage over Prado, and I think that he is just going to absolutely dominate this fight on the outside, outpointing him at range 30-27 for Varetnikov. Prado has been unable to beat anybody who is bigger than him and has technical striking. He's unable to track the range of these guys. He's 0-3 or he's 1-3 in the UFC. The win coming versus Ottoman Azaitar, which is not a high level win. He moved up after losing to Jamie Malarkey and he lost to one other dude at um lost to one other dude at 155. But now he's up 15 pounds. He's really big, really strong, but like not tall, but he has a big frame. But I think Varetnikov, his jab will keep him at bay. Leg kicks, he can whip up a nice body kick. On occasion, I think if he was to throw some combos in this fight, he could be successful. But Prado is good in pockets, so don't give him that ability to succeed. Just keep him outside where he struggles with the bigger fighters, and I think Varetnikov will have a successful night. And this is my big underdog pick of the card. I have one more underdog pick that I'm not the most confident about. It's more like a 50-50 fight that I'm going to just lean the other way. But this one I'm pretty confident on. I think Varetnikov is the perfect dog of the card. This guy is going to be able to control the range, and he will be able to control the fight, similar to how Jake Matthews did without being as talented or technical. Moving on. Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen. I think Brendan Allen's pretty good. Versus he came out versus Mavov in the first round and looked incredible. Took him down. He landed like a nice leg kick, really thudding leg kick, and then a nice jab. Got into a high crotch. Super, super powerful in that fight in the first round. Was not able to do anything for the rest of the round. Was a Mavov, and he got rode out for like 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Brendan Allen did great in that first round. This is the only way that Brendan Allen loses. He's not smart. Everybody knows Brendan Allen has some of the worst fight IQ in the UFC. If he falls in love with the takedowns and stuff, like if he gets it on Marvin Vettori, who has pretty good takedown defense, that's what happened versus Amavov. He was trading with Amavov very well on the feet. In kickboxing exchanges, he was tagging him up with leg kicks to the body. Super thudding kicks. His combos were good. He was landing like a 1-2 leg kick every now and again. He looked great. Brendan Allen looked just as good as Amavov, who is one of the most technical strikers at 185 pounds. This is a guy who just knocked out Israel Adesanya, was going to war with Brendan Allen. But Brendan Allen would not give up on the takedowns. After that first round, we had all the success with the takedowns. He was very low IQ in that decision to keep going for those takedowns. I think that he is going to. I think he's better than Vettori on the feet. Vettori looked like shit in the last fight. He looked like he was stuck in the mud versus Dolidze. It was kind of an embarrassment that both of those guys are top 10 ranked in our sport in the middleweight division. It's crazy that Vettori fought for a belt. This guy fought for a belt off of a goddamn Kevin Holland win. But Brendan Allen's really good. I think he is just outside the top 5 talent-wise, but he is just really stupid. That's the thing. If he falls in love with the takedowns and can't get them, and then that's all he's focusing on instead of thinking, "Hey, I'm trading with this guy on the feet. Maybe I should just stand and bang with him." 'Cause he was. He was having great exchanges versus Imavov. The other thing with Brendan Allen, he's only lost the best of the best. He had success, almost submitted Fluffy Hernandez multiple times, just couldn't cinch it up. And it was another very low IQ fight by him. But he's also lost to Sean Strickland, and I think he also lost to Chris Curtis was his last one, I believe. So he's lost to the best of the best, all ranked fighters. Curtis, he got that one back, and I believe he knocked him out. Um, I'm picking Brendan Allen to get this one done in his hometown, but he has to be smart here. If he's not able to get the takedowns on Vettori, he shouldn't keep going like, oh, I have to get this takedown. I have to get this takedown. Understand that he is good on the feet. Brendan Allen, my best friend, by the way, I've met Brendan Allen. Oh, guy. Me and Brendan Allen are like this. Not actually. I talked to him like once at a karate combat event. But this guy's pretty fucking good. I think he's pretty high level, and I think he's going to be able to get it done versus Marvin Vettori. I think he's going to dominate this fight, actually. As long as in his mind he's thinking, I'm better than this guy everywhere for the fight goes. I don't have to fall in love with the takedown and go for broke on the takedown attempts because I can outstrike this guy on the feet. He's faster than Marvin Vettori, has great leg kicks, good work to the body, and he's fast. He has good combos, he's technical. He was able to avoid getting clipped bad at any moments by a Mavov. I think that he's going to get this one done, and I think he's going to get it done by submission. I'm just going to say in like the second or third round. Moving on, Kyler Phillips versus Vinicius Oliveira. Don't get on the Vinicius Oliveira hype train now. I've been on this. When there was like 10% of people picking him versus Said Nurmagomedov, that was me. I was the 10%. I am a big Vinicius Lock Dog Oliveira fan. I think that this guy is the best value on the card. On most sports books, he's like minus 150 to minus 170. Throw this in with whatever. Everybody's picking this guy because he should be picked. Kyler Phillips looked mid versus Rob Font. He had all this hype on his name. Um, he's just not that good, honestly. Vinicius Oliveira, I think Said Nurmagomedov is better than Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips' route to winning this fight would be grappling, and Vinicius Oliveira, not aloe vera, out grappled a fucking Nurmagomedov, dude. He out grappled Said Nurmagomedov. Also, this guy is amazing already because he forced a Nurmagomedov to have an entertaining fight. He dropped round one to Said Nurmagomedov, broke his rib, and still gritted down, throwing these sick combos, head kicks, spinning attacks, all this stuff, dropping Said all over the place. It was a war. It was a sick fight. And I think Vinicius Oliveira is the man. He's my favorite prospect at bantamweight. I see this guy winning this fight by either a schooling decision, 30-27, maybe even 30-26 if he drops Kyler all over the place on a round, or by knockout, let's say in a later round. Because the route for Kyler Phillips to win here is to wrestle. And I don't think he's even that much better of a grappler than Vinicius Oliveira, who, like I said, was able to out grapple Ricky Simone, who's a high level grappler, and he was able to out grapple Said Nurmagomedov. And then he also had that beautiful flying knee over Bernardo Sopai, who since has gotten a good win. So he's on a good 3-fight winning streak. And I think Vinicius Oliveira is a legit prospect. I've been calling for this guy to just get his praise for a long time. I was saying that this guy's going to be ranked at the beginning of the year. He's really, really good. He's already in the rankings, and I think he's only going to keep climbing. I'm picking him to school Kyler Phillips, as is everybody. The whole community's pretty sure on this one. Vinicius Oliveira is the man, and he is going to dominate Kyler Phillips. The fact that he was able to do that in his last fight with a broken rib is insane, and I think that we are going to see a form of Vinicius Oliveira that is so, so good, and I'm going to pick him to win this fight in domination over Kyler Phillips, who got really overhyped, and he isn't that good. Moving on, MJ versus Daniel Zellhuber. This fight is actually pretty entertaining. Like they are making it kind of like there's some beef there. I'm picking Daniel Zellhuber. He's like a massive favorite. He's like minus 550, minus 575. Daniel Zellhuber, I'm actually pretty high on. He arguably could have beat Ribovich. I'm not gonna say it's a bad decision. It was a sick war. I think that Michael Johnson's way to win any fight right now is by a fluke knockout. I believe he beat like Darius Flowers, sucks, and Ottoman Zaitar by KO, sucks. Daniel Zellhuber has a sick chin. Also, Michael Johnson, like everybody loves MJ. He has wins over the best of the best. You know, he's beat Dustin Poirier. Um, but at the end of the day, the man is 15-15 on the UFC. Mr. Coin Flip himself. You don't know if he's going to win or lose because he's not that high level. And his way to win this fight is by fluke knockout. And Daniel Zellhuber has a hell of a chin. The Ribovich loss was whatever. It was a sick war. Put on one of the best fights of the year last year for the fans. And I have so much respect for Daniel Zellhuber as a fighter. I think he's really high level. He has a really good mentality. He wants to be a champion. Um, all of his interviews, I feel like he's saying the right things. He's rangy, he's super big for lightweight, and he's a good boxer, competent on the ground. I don't see a spot in the fight that Michael Johnson is better than Daniel Zellhuber. I think Zellhuber, he might finish Michael Johnson. If not, they're going to go to war, and Zellhuber's going to win a dominant decision. Moving on, Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull. So I'll say this. I had a weird feeling that it's going to be either Dan Ige or Roman Kopylov that gets upset. And after watching Paulo Costa tweak the fuck out at the press conference, I'm leaning towards because I know one of these guys is losing. I'm thinking it's gonna be Ige. I'm a big Dan Ige fan. I'm gonna be rooting for Dan Ige. I'm gonna be rooting against my own pick. I like Dan Ige. He's a great dude. He's a company man. He's a sick fighter. Let's be honest, man. In his last fight, I don't care what the scorecard said. He was down 2 rounds to 0 versus Sean Woodson, or he should have been. I think that one was like a so I don't like to say that the UFC rigs fights or fixes fights, but how early that stoppage was, one, it was like a grossly early stoppage, and then I was like, oh, dude, that sucks. Like Woodson was up 2-0, and I'd picked Woodson, and then I like went and I looked at the cards. I was like, oh, he was never winning that fight. I guess like the early stoppage, the scorecards, it was all really questionable. Slightly after Dan Ige also got that short notice fight versus Lopez, so I felt like maybe the UFC was doing him back one after he was like, yeah, you just took on Lopez short notice for us, and then you got schooled by Lerone Murphy. Let's give you some, or not really schooled. He had moments of success. That was like a 29-28 fight. But like, yeah, let's give you somebody, and like, we're gonna make sure this one's a win. Like, I'm not saying the UFC rigs fights. I'm not somebody who believes that, but I always do think that some stuff like that is a little bit suspicious. I think maybe like the cards seemed fixed. Like he should not have been winning that fight. This guy's also lost to all the high level fighters, you know. Bryce Mitchell, I like him. He's not that high level anymore. He's also lost to like, I believe, who is Danny Gay lost to? Danny Gay's lost to like kind of everybody. And I feel like this camp, him and Max Holloway are training together again. I believe from all the interviews that I've seen, unless I got that all wrong, because he's been like, yeah, me and Max are gonna get it back, blah blah blah. But Patricio Pitbull, man, the Yair fight, I'll say this, he had UFC jitters. It was his first fight fighting in the octagon, but he still had success in pockets. When the fight got close and close range, because that's the thing. He was going in there with a massive size disadvantage to Yair, who's probably the biggest guy, either the biggest or second biggest guy at featherweight. And he just got outsized, outpointed at range, and then he did get dropped in a moment, but he also had success in pockets. Some of his like 1-2s were landing. He had some nice hooks, counter hooks, check hooks, straights. Like he's landed some thudding punches on Yair. And I think he just had some octagon jitters. And he was really struggling with Yair, who's super unorthodox, super huge for the division. And Yair was in like some of the best shape that we've ever seen Yair. Um, Bull had some success in that fight. I'm gonna be picking against Dan Ige here. Dan Ige is not that good, you know. He got schooled by Lerone Murphy. Am I crazy for saying Patricio Pitbull? Or like Dan Ige, so with Patricio Pitbull, when these Bellator guys come over, Michael Chandler schooled Dustin or what? No, he didn't. He got his ass beat by Dustin. He schooled Dan Hooker and then knocked out like Tony Ferguson. Is Dan Ige not like a slightly below a Dan Hooker level fighter? I think Patricio Pitbull is around like that's the thing. I think Bellator champs are like right outside the top 10 in UFC talent. I think that they're like I don't think that they're going to be like coming in and they're going to be these top contenders ever. But I do not see them as like they're unranked and they suck and all this stuff. I think that Patricio Pitbull could beat almost everybody from 10 to 15, aside from probably Gene Silva. Um, I think that Dan Igue's a gatekeeper. And I think that Patricio Pitbull, there's at least a little bit of a storyline there. There's a path to a fight with Volkanovski because of their beef in the past. I bet they would have made that fight if he was able to beat Yair Rodriguez. I think that he has a big enough name in the combat sports world that he has some favorability from the UFC. And I like Ige. I really do. I'm a big Dan Ige fan, but I just think that he's not that high level. He's not that super good at anything. You know, he's a good boxer. He's a good wrestler. He does everything well. Pitbull has a couple things that make him really good. Like his jujitsu's really good. He has some solid pocket boxing and stuff like that. And I think that, like I said, he struggles with the big frame. And Dan Ige is not big. This is gonna be a very evenly sized matchup. I see them being right around the same size, and I'm picking Pitbull to get it done. And the other thing, I forgot to mention this. Dan Ige has never been finished, but he loses almost every decision that he goes to. He's been to, I believe, 16 decisions, and he lost 9 of them. So this guy's not friendly with the scorecards because he's not good at outpointing guys. If he wins, it's going to be by knockout, and I think Pitbull still has a solid chin on him. I think he's right at the point where he's at the twilight of his career, but he might still have one last little run in him where he could take out a Dan Ige and then maybe like the worst top 5 guy in the rankings and maybe make a push for a title shot. Um, I think he had UFC jitters. He did not look flowy in there, and if that's the thing again, then maybe he just is completely washed. But I'm gonna bet that he looks better, and I'm picking Patricio Pitbull by 29-28 decision. I think Ige can take a round. He's pretty good. But like I said, Ige's way to win this is by fluke KO, and I don't see him getting it. Moving on, Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. I'm gonna keep this one pretty short and sweet. Kevin Holland's gonna school Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez, it was like a coin flip picking him or Santiago Ponzinibbio. Like that was like an Unk versus Unk at the cookout. Somebody said something about the other dude's t-shirt type of thing. Um, this dude is like the Cholo Unk who's just gonna fucking go throw down for no reason, but he's not that good. Daniel Rodriguez, like I think he beat Ponzi, and then before that, I believe he lost his fight before that, if I remember correctly. Kevin Holland's good. He's on a current like win streak. He wanted this fight just to stay active. Holland could be fighting up in the rankings, but I think he takes this fight because he knows how low danger it is. I don't think Rodriguez can grapple with him. Holland is so much bigger. His frame is massive compared to Daniel Rodriguez. Well, Kevin Holland was very comfortable fighting at middleweight and stuff like that. He's huge for welterweight. I think he's going to walk through Daniel Rodriguez and sub him in the first or second round. I don't think this one's close. I'm picking Kevin Holland. I'm not locking this one because they're like Kevin Holland, dude. He can just show up and look terrible. He's a lot of people's lock on this card, but I'm not locking him. I'm just very confident. I'm going to say Kevin Holland wins this one by submission. Moving on, Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov. Dude, I was really leaning towards Paulo Costa because I was like, this hatred he has for Chimaev could like bring back hungry Paulo Costa, who was a hell of a fighter. And Kopylov's like lost in the UFC, and he was like losing around to Chris Curtis and had that super early stoppage. Like he didn't look like a world beater in his last fight. I was like, maybe Kopylov is like the same level as Yoel was when he was like 42, and Paulo Costa beat that guy. But man, he looked like he was on crack at the fucking press conference, dude. Um, I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna like I'll give my like bets for the card right after I give my picks, but I'm not gonna be like betting on this. I'll say this in advance. I think that Paulo Costa is literally fueled by so much hatred for Khamzat Chimaev that he actually does come and look like the hungry version of himself. Because the thing about Paulo Costa, it's kind of like he lost his swagger after that Izzy fight. And he hasn't beat like the highest level competition. His best wins are like Yoel and Uriah Hall and Yoel Romero. All those guys were pretty over the hill. But I just don't think that Populov is much better than like a 40-year-old Yoel Romero or like a 38-year-old Luke Rockhold. I don't know. Kopylov like has like a lot of hype, but I'm just not that high on him. I think he's gonna be maybe I think he's ranked level, but low ranked level. I could never see this guy making a run to the title or putting together a big win streak. I don't think he's that good. And Costa, like when he's hungry, man, he has fought for a belt. He was a scary like up and comer in his heyday. And I don't know, I was really like just like leaning towards him, but then I was just like, I don't know, this dude like might be on crack. I'm not gonna bet on this fight, but I am gonna keep it safe here and pick Roman Kopylov by decision because I think he could outpoint Paulo Costa with output. Costa could land the big shots though, and Kopylov, we don't know if he can really take those shots of Paulo Costa. Moving on to the main event, the BMF title, Mickey Mouse belt, by the way. That should be JDM's belt or Ilya's belt, because those are kind of like the lineal BMF champs right now. Man, I've seen a lot of people lean in Dustin Poirier. I get it. Like physique wise, he's at his best. Max Holloway's coming off of a KO loss. I think that media perception of that Dustin Poirier versus Islam fight was better than my perception of it. I thought he kind of like clearly lost. A lot of people thought he was having a lot more success than he was. Max Holloway, originally when I first watched it, I remember thinking, because I had a lot of money on Ilya, I think it was just like a stress thing. I thought that he won round one. He definitely didn't. Like watching it back, he definitely did not win round one on Ilya. And then he looked so good versus Justin Gaethje. And I like the people who are picking Max Holloway, their argument, well, he schooled Justin Gaethje and Justin Gaethje knocked out Poirier, so that shows where they're at. It doesn't though. It doesn't. Max Holloway versus Poirier, I scored their second fight like I said 48-47 for Poirier. I feel like 49-46 is not a bad scorecard at all. I thought Holloway, I think Poirier could have stolen the third from busting up his nose, but the thing is, Max Holloway and that fight, you could see even like in his sides, like I'm not saying he had love handles, like he still was in solid shape, but he was kind of doughy. He wasn't shredded. Um, and he just hadn't come into he was not committing to the lightweight frame. He did not put on that weight healthily. Whereas he's had about 10 months since his knockout in October to Topuria, and he looked good in that fight. He looked fast, his boxing combos were good, and let's not act like Dustin Poirier wasn't getting tagged up in the striking by BSD, who's not good. Like that was a cool resurgence win, and like Poirier landed on Islam and stuff, but I don't know. I just don't see Dustin Poirier. I feel like Max Holloway is going to get one back. When we look at Max Holloway at the end of his career, are we going to be saying, he was great, but he lost to this guy three times and he lost to Volk three times, and it's going to be just don't see it happening. I think Poirier is going to get this one done. I do. Or no, no. Let me fix that real quick. Holloway, I think he's going to get one. I think he's going to get one. I could also I see it in my head, like in the post fight interview. He still got me 2-1, but I'm glad I got one back. He's a legend, man. Yeah. And then Poirier's like kind of salty after the loss, but kind of happy because he's in Lafayette or New Orleans and he's in there. Yeah, man. I tried real hard, man, but Max Holloway, he's a legend. I couldn't take nothing from him. I still got him 2-0 though. Like he could be a little salty in there. I still got him 2-1. I still won our trilogy. Like getting all like that. I kind of hope Poirier wins so we could retire this fucking Mickey Mouse belt. I don't like the BMF belt. Um, it leads to cards like this where it's like, oh, cool, we got Holloway versus Poirier 3, which also isn't like the best matchup in the world. And then it's like, what do we got next? Holocaust versus Roman Kopylov. Like, this is bad, dude. Like, why is the UFC putting together shit like this? But the BMF, Mickey Mouse belt, two guys coming off of losses fighting for a belt, you know, to the actual two best fighters in the company. But whatever. Um, Dustin Poirier is in really good shape. And there's some stuff that he said in interviews that I don't like lately. He is become like he does not want to reminisce, but he's been kind of like forced to reminisce. His physique shows like he's put in like the work and stuff. He cut out alcohol, but he's also saying like, yeah, I've only been eating like meat and berries and shit like that. And I'm like, bro, doing that for a whole training camp is gonna really fuck up your gas tank. And we've seen Poirier start to gas out in round two before he finished BSD, and I think Holloway versus Poirier too was like a stars aligning performance from Poirier, whereas Max wasn't even like in his like peak yet. Like obviously he was the champ, he was doing a lot, but like I don't think Champ Max was like the best form of Max. I think we've seen Max. I think Justin Gaethje that fight was the best form of Max. I think him being in there, being very game, having successful exchanges versus Topuria is peak Max. Poirier got kind of fucked up on the feet by Islam, who I think is a really not good technical boxer. And Poirier, I think the stars aligned. He won the interim belt, which I would never take anything away from Dustin Poirier. I consider him a champion more than I consider some people a champion who are actual champs. Like I have top Poirier in my top 30 all time. I think he's really good. He's the best fighter to never win an undisputed belt. But that performance, like I wouldn't say it was a close fight because he clearly won one and two. It was, fifth was like a little close, but then he like smudged against, and then the third like Holloway out volumed him, but then he busted up his nose. Fourth was probably Holloway's. Man, Dustin Poirier is the man. He really is, and I'm like the sport is going to be really it's gonna be so different not having Poirier in it, but I think that Holloway's gonna get this one back. He still has some stuff in the future. He feels like he has unfinished business with to Poirier. And originally when I saw the state of Max Holloway in these interviews with like his eyes a little sunken in and his cheekbones, I was like, man, he looks like shit. Like and Poirier's in this great shape. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, Poirier, like he was talking about his diet, and I didn't like what I was hearing. And then Holloway's like, yeah, you could, he in an interview even said like, oh, you can see how drained I am right now. It's because I actually put on the weight. I think he healthily put on 10 pounds of muscle again, like he did for the Gaethje fight. And I think the Gaethje fight is the best Max Holloway we've ever seen. I think this is going to be really similar to Topuria Holloway with a worse version of Topuria. Because Poirier is like a really good technical boxer, but I think Poirier's only gotten worse in his career. He's in the twilight of his career where Max Holloway just got caught by the best in the world and he's still kind of in his prime. Unless Ilya took his soul with that knockout and his chin's gone. So those like I don't think Poirier's gonna be landing with as much power as he landed in the second fight. I don't think that Holloway's chin is just gonna be cooked. I'm picking Max Holloway by 48-47, 49-46 maybe. Unanimous decision over Dustin Poirier. I think it's gonna be a sick fight. It's gonna be an absolute war. But he has experience in this stuff, man. He spoiled the Korean Zombies retirement fight in his hometown, and he can do the same thing to Dustin Poirier. He's taken on the villain role. He has been so like, he's usually the nice guy giving credit, all this kind of stuff. Like he was super nice when he lost to Poirier. He was super nice about like all the Volk losses for the most part. He was a little salty after that second one. But he really salty about Ilya. He's really fucking salty about Ilya. And I think he's hungry to get that one back. I don't think if he wins this, he's like next in line for a title shot or anything, especially with how talented lightweight is. But then he's in the mix with the three other names that are up there for the title shot. And then he probably passes Gaethje in that like kind of waiting in line. So maybe we could run like a Holloway versus. I'll do matchmaking after if he wins. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Holloway by unanimous decision. That's my picks for the card. Moving on to my betting analysis. I put together a list of a couple parlays here. And for those picks, I'm going to say from like low risk to the highest risk, some parlays that I would recommend. So for low risk, if you're just trying to see some green in your bet slip, we are going to go with Atiba Gautier, Islam Dulatov, and Bruno Ferreira money line. Those three will combine to minus 161 odds, which will $100 will win you $62 in return. If you're just trying to make like a little bit more money, have a very confident bet that's going to make you back some money so you can play around with some of the other stuff. Or if you want to take those three locks, throw them in with your pick for the main event because that is one of the fights that I'm fading. I'm not going to be betting on the main event. If you want to throw it in with your pick, it's going to get you some good odds, maybe in like the plus 200 range. But if you want to get some plus money out of a very similar parlay, I would move it on to Bruno Ferreira by finish, so KO or submission. Then I'd say Dulatov by KO or submission, and then Atiba Gautier by KO. That would get you plus 100 on the dot, and that would get you or actually it's a little bit more than that. It's like plus 113. So it's going to be plus 113 and $100 will win you $113. So that's going to be a little bit of a jump up from the $62 minus money. And then if you want like a medium risk parlay, I would say Ryan Spann, Marvin or no, Ryan Spann, Brendan Allen, and Vinicius Oliveira. That's going to be plus 261 odds, which will win you $261 back in profit. I like Vinicius Oliveira. The community likes Vinicius Oliveira. Everybody's picking Vinicius Oliveira because this guy is the most broken odds on the card. And Vittori's not good. He looked terrible in his last fight. Allen is high level. I think he could put it all together in his own hometown. And then Ryan Spann, I just think Lucas Brzeski's not that good. So that's going to be my medium risk parlay. If you're looking for a high risk parlay, I'm going to advise a 9 leg parlay of all favorites. I have locked this one in because I feel pretty confident about it. For me, that's Carly Judice, Bruno Ferreira, and these are all just money lines. Ryan Spann, Islam Dulatov, Atiba Gautier, Brendan Allen, Vinicius Oliveira, Daniel Zellhuber, and Kevin Holland. The fights that I am personally fading, that I'm going to say I don't think that you should put your money on, because I could see a world where, let's say, Poirier, for example, gets a win in his retirement fight and goes out on top. I'm not picking this fight because, he's 2-0 on Holloway. I think Holloway is going to get this one, but I'm not putting my money where my mouth is. Same thing with Costa Kopylov. I've seen some people lock Kopylov. I'm not that high on Kopylov. I think that Costa could pull it off. I think he could knock out Kopylov. Danny Gay versus Patricio Pitbull. I'm not going to pretend like this is like the most. I think this is a very evenly matched. This is the one that I was talking about earlier with the 50-50. I'm not betting on this. I'm picking Pitbull as an underdog, but I'm not betting on it. I'm also not betting on Jimmy Crute marching Prachnio because the odds for Jimmy Crute, despite me picking him minus 300, is not good money. It's just not. And then for my underdog pick of the card, I'm picking Nikolai Varentenikov. I think he is going to get it done. I think he's going to be able to keep it on the outside, stay out of the pockets where Prado is successful, and I think he's going to win a decision. But those are my picks for the card. Like I said, my locks of the card are going to be Dulatov, Ferreira, and Atiba Gautier. My underdog pick of the card is Nikolai Veretennikov, and I am fading the main event. Costa versus Kopylov, Pitbull versus Ige, and Prachniow versus Jimmy Crute. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and come back after the fights to check out my recap. And thank you guys for watching. We're going to make a lot of money this weekend. Peace.